President Biden is facing setbacks on several of his administration's agendas. The first deals with COVID-19 booster shots. The FDA has rejected President Biden's original plan to offer the shots to all Americans. Instead, health officials are only recommending an extra dose for those at risk and people 65 and older at this time. This comes as the White House nears several key legislative deadlines. One of them is the debt ceiling. Government funding runs out September 30th. Without congressional intervention, the federal government will not be able to pay its bills. Democrats are also trying to pass a key part of President Biden's agenda, infrastructure, by the end of the month. But divisions within the party over policy and cost could hinder his agenda. Some progressives say they will not pass the $1 trillion bill without the larger $3.5 trillion spending bill. And Democrats are pushing new voting rights legislation. This comes in response to several GOP-led states tightening their voting laws. For more on all of this, I want to bring in CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion. Hi, Nikole. Great to see you. So let's start with the debt ceiling deadline. Can you explain what happens if Congress does not vote to raise or suspend the debt ceiling?
So in terms of the debt limit, where things stand now here in Congress is that we're waiting to see how lawmakers respond to this, because as you mentioned, the U.S. will kind of reach its limit, if you will, at some point next month. And so the Treasury Secretary has warned that could create widespread economic catastrophe if Congress fails to increase the debt limit. And so at this point, what remains unclear is whether lawmakers will fold a debt limit increase or suspension, for instance, into a government spending bill. That's the other issue facing Congress right now, whether or not to fund the government. It's due to run out at the end of this month. And so there is talk about potentially folding the debt limit into that broader spending package. There has also been talk about possibly just making it more of a party line vote, putting it into that reconciliation bill, or possibly holding a standalone vote. But either way you slice it, time is running out as far as Congress's ability to act. They have to do it within the next several weeks. Otherwise, again, as the Secretary warned, it could spell big trouble for the U.S. economy.
And the Senate parliamentarian is rejecting a plan by Democrats to use the $3.5 trillion spending bill to give immigrants a path to citizenship. What can Democrats do now to make this happen?
So at this point in time, they kind of have to deal with the decision as it stands, right? There have been calls among some more progressive members that, the Senate should move forward anyway and basically ignore the parliamentarians' decision. There has also been talk about whether or not the parliamentarian should be removed or fired. But Senator Bob Menendez just held a call with reporters in which he said he doesn't necessarily feel that that's very constructive. Instead, what he proposes is that perhaps they can go back to the parliamentarian with some alternative language on some of these provisions to see if that might pass the smell test, if you will, as far as trying to include immigration into this broader $3.5 trillion reconciliation package.
And Nikole, as we've been discussing, Democrats are split right now on the infrastructure bill. What are some of the main sticking points? And do you think they can be resolved by the September 27th vote Pelosi has promised?
Well, as far as the bipartisan infrastructure package, this $1 trillion package that the Speaker is guaranteed to vote on by September 27th, for the most part, there is broad consensus on this bill. In fact, lawmakers worked for weeks, if not months, trying to craft that package. The issue, more or less, is the timing of the bill. Will that vote hold up on the 27th? And will the Speaker keep her word as far as having a vote by then? What the concern is that there has been an effort on the part of some Democrats to try to link these two packages together, both this smaller bipartisan infrastructure bill and the larger $3.5 trillion reconciliation package. And so it's kind of like one can't go without the other. And so because there is more disagreement on that larger package, there is some concern that could affect the timing on this smaller infrastructure bill. And so what we've continued to hear from a lot of moderates is that, look, we want this vote regardless. this. It should be a standalone vote. You know, we need to get the money out the door so that we can get some of those shovels in the ground. But, you know, when you have more moderate members like Senator Manchin saying, hey, no, we should put this strategic pause on this broader $3.5 trillion reconciliation package, well, then that gives some progressives concern or pause about whether they should support that smaller infrastructure package, because, again, in their view, they feel like you can't have one without the other.
And a lot to get to here, Nikole. I want to ask you also about the new voting rights bill that Democrats have on the table. Remind us what that includes and what it would take to get it passed.
So this is the Freedom to Vote Act that was just introduced last week, and so Senator Schumer said that he could put that on the floor as early as this week. That still remains to be seen. We do know that he has put the measure on the legislative calendar, and we expect we'll probably get some updates on that as soon as today. But look, this is still going to be a heavy lift for Democrats because they need to get 10 Republicans on board to support this measure, which really is like a pared down version of that For the People Act, not as comprehensive as the initial election reform package that was put forth by Senate Democrats earlier this year, but it does include some of those same components, whether that is, for instance, making Election Day a national holiday, ensuring that there's, you know, a roughly 15-day period for early voting, you know, allowing same-day voter registration and the like, also limiting partisan gerrymandering. So, you know, that is really the core essence of this particular bill, but at this point, unclear whether it would have that support from Republicans, especially if the Senate decides to move forward on it this week. Also worth noting that you have the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act that cleared the House a couple weeks back. That remains in the Senate as well, and there are still some questions about whether or not that will be linked with this newer revamped elections package, or whether it will be dealt on its own. Right now, we know that that particular bill is in committee over in the Senate, and again, that one would revamp the 1965 Voting Rights Act.
All right, Nikole Killion on Capitol Hill, thank you so much.
You bet.